come on my podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself and what you
Yeah.
do?
I am Graveyard. I have a podcast called the Mostly Pod Out Night. Mostly, you can check us out on all social media at Pod Out at Night. We also have a interview podcast called Conversations Avoid, only on YouTube. Found that Pod Out at Night. So, and hopefully joining Horror Dad's Productions at some point in time again.
Yeah. You sound so professional.
I
And then
do this
there's
five
me.
day. I do this 5 days a week. So
Good. I'm gonna have to take some pointers. So since I don't go live, I just like chop it into
Mhm.
pieces and then have somebody edit it for me.
Oh, you're lucky. I have to do all my editing myself. So.
Yeah, I would never get anything done. But so I do have one question I want to start with. What
Yes.
was your experience with The Evil Dead when you were young versus
Mhm.
like now, if you've seen it both stages?
Oh, absolutely. I saw Evil Dead. I mean, I started horror movies at way too young of an age. Let's say about 4.
Oh,
But I got introduced to Evil Dead because of Army of Darkness was always on after uh, Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the early 90s. So I go, hey, that guy looks great. Bruce Campbell is Ash William. I go, I have to find out more. So as I got more introduced into the horror world, I realized it was a trilogy. So I, dedicated to finding it in my local video store and finding everything else about it. But as I got older, it quickly became one of my top movies, probably my all-time favorite horror movie, to the
oh
point
no,
where I
I'm
started dating my now wife.
freezing.
Oh no!
Aha, I see you again.
You see me again? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
No worries.
So you were never really scared of them then, right?
No,
No.
no. I have yet to be afraid of a horror movie since I was probably 4 or 5, and that was Jaws. But
Jaws.
ever since then, yeah, ever since then though, it's been I've been searching for that movie that will scare me.
A lot of people say Jaws is a horror movie, but I just don't see it as horror. But anyway, that's for another time if you want to do that one. But so,
Hmm.
do you have like a favorite
Oh yeah.
scene from Evil Dead? Like, why is it your favorite?
Um, I think it has the right amount of campiness, even though they weren't trying to be campy, just because it was such a low budget horror movie. I think when he's being chased through the woods and through the house, through the cabin, right at the end of the movie, where he's, seemingly the final boy, and you expect him to live, and the way the movie ended, you expected him to be dead because he got thrown out of the cabin and attacked by the evil.
Right. Yep.
So,
I don't know what my favorite scene is, but that scene where he's sitting there slapping his girlfriend was that was
oh yeah,
hilarious. I love the sound effects with it too.
yeah.
So, what did you think of the actual storyline?
It's I think it's a great storyline. It is now, as we discussed before, kind of a trope, but it was kind of the grandfather, the template for the cabin in the woods trope.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, it was a great storyline. It's 5 people going to a cabin from Michigan all the way down to Tennessee, and you know, hell breaks loose essentially because they let loose the Kandarian demons. So,
I think my mistake is being a millennial, seeing all the new scary movies before
mhm,
watching the originals. Now the storyline feels so basic and predictable to me because they stole it from them. But so I was
mhm.
kind of expecting a lot of what happened. I'm like, of course, there's teenagers going out to the cabin in the woods. And
Oh yeah,
obviously, we know what's going to happen.
oh
But
yeah.
I do like how the different angles they came in for the camera. That was
Mhm.
a lot different than anything I see anymore.
Yeah, so interesting fact about the camera work is because they had such a low budget, Sam Raimi, who went on to, direct Hercules, Xena, the Spider-Man trilogy, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, he invented a lot of those camera angles that they now use in movies. So
Oh,
he
that's
built it
cool.
out. He built a lot of the rigs out of necessity. So now it's now a standard in the industry.
That's really cool. Yeah, I noticed that in this, like, every movie he has
Hmm.
that same car.
Oh yeah,
It's
his
like
his
he knows
Delta
how to lead the
88,
trouble.
his Delta 88. Yes.
Yeah, yep. So, I I really like that they had so many memorable scenes in there too, like,
Hmm.
I can't use the R word, so I'm gonna call it the kinky vines.
Yes,
That
the
scene in the woods where the
the bad
vines.
bad touch tree.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was not expecting that. That got me.
Yeah, yeah, and they kind of pay homage to it in Evil Dead Rise. Did you see Evil Dead Rise?
Yeah, but I didn't notice that.
The elevator scene with the
Okay.
mom where she got possessed was supposed
Oh,
to be a
yeah.
callback to that scene without it being bad touch
I
elevator
feel
wires.
like I need to rewatch them all, but, like, in order,
Hmm.
because 'cause I'm starting kinda late on everything. But it had so much cool I love the special effects in it, the practical effects,
Oh yeah,
like the bleeding pipes, that was pretty neat.
oh yeah. The effects were amazing for the budget they had, and it really that's for this movie why I love low budget horror movies is because you put more heart and work into it than having the $1 million budget.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it says something about their acting too,
Hmm.
because they really sold it.
Yeah.
And I think I don't remember where I saw it, where I read it, but I guess, like, from what I heard, the directors and producers were, like, poke at the staff or at the cast to try to get them extra irritated to really get
Hmm.
them into their roles. So I think they really did good on that.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is, if you watch anything that Sam Raimi does with Bruce Campbell, especially as Ash, they're best friends. They grew up together, so he
Okay.
makes sure hit him harder than anyone else.
So I wonder if he was actually the one throwing himself around in that movie or not.
It was him. Yeah.
Was it?
Hmm.
Okay. It looked so real. It didn't look like it could have been like a stunt person or anything. I think that's why I like it too, is because CGI just kind of ruins stuff for me anymore. I like to see the characters actually acting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's I said that's why I always think practical. I agree. Practical is better because you have something physical to work with.
Yeah, for most of the movie, it looked pretty real. The one part I didn't like was like towards the end.
Hmm.
Might be a little bit of a spoiler. It's like when they're decomposing, I guess.
The claymation.
Yeah, that part I wasn't keen on that because so much of it was so good leading up to that. Then that part just kind of felt rushed through. I'm like, well, what was that?
Yeah, it's just the restrictions on their budget. I mean, you do see the giant hands come out of them, which was practical. But yes, the melting,
Yeah, look like giant
melting.
demon claws.
Yeah, the melting's hard to do in horror movies, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, I guess it's nice having a different perspective on it because I'm just so used to all the new stuff.
Hmm.
It makes it a little bit harder to appreciate sometimes, I think.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, and I see that a lot. Like I said, because I said love Evil Dead, so I've seen the progression of it to the CG with the TV show with the Evil Dead by Feli Alvarez and Evil Dead Rise. That they still try to do more practical effects than anything else. Still,
yeah. So, do you think some of the sound effects were reused in the movie?
oh,
Because
absolutely.
I can't tell if he was doing it to be funny. Because like, some of them, you're like, "I know I heard that earlier. There's no way it's the same sound I'm hearing."
Hmm. Oh yeah, it's their Foley artist was probably did a handful of effects and then just kind of toned it down or pitched it up or anything like that, just for the screams, the moans.
Yeah, it was so cool how he made it work, though. It was all really eerie.
Hmm.
And it was action packed. Like for I read a few reviews before watching it because I like to know what I'm going to watch. And a lot of people said that like there were these lulling moments. I thought it was pretty action packed most of the way through. I didn't really get any of those slow moments.
Well, and that I mean I can see where people say that, but I mean you have to keep in mind it's in the original Halloween. Michael Myers kills someone at the beginning of the movie, and it's 45 minutes to the next death,
Yeah, yeah,
which is a very long time. But this is kind of setting up the isolation. Even the point where there's lack of sound, just to show how mind numbing and terrorizing it can actually be.
Yeah, yeah, they did good. They did good on that.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite special effects too is where that one, I think it's Linda. Yeah, her foot, where
Hmm.
her sister stabs her in the foot. Oh my god, that made me cringe.
Oh, absolutely.
And it takes a lot to make me cringe and look away, unless it's a clown. But oh, that was
Yeah.
rough.
I think, in my opinion, that shot is more gruesome than the cheese grater scene in Evil Dead Rise,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
knew it was going to happen in Evil Dead Rise, and it really wasn't that bad, as
He
opposed to,
he knows what he's doing.
oh yeah,
Well, do you have anything you want to talk about when it comes to the movie?
yeah. Like I said, we go back to, where I am as an adult now. Um, when I started dating my now wife 20 years ago, um, I had her watch the Evil Dead trilogy to see if this relationship would work. So it's funny that I do that. I think I showed you when we were shooting the film that half my horror tattoo sleeve is Evil Dead.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I mean, that's perfect for me. My son was born on Bruce Campbell's birthday, and his
Oh,
name
dude,
is
that's
his
awesome.
his name's Ash William. So,
Ah, that's cool.
mhm.
So, what do you think is what drew you into it the most?
I said I think it was the effects,
The effects?
the small team, and it really felt like they were making a movie to make a movie. They weren't
Yeah.
doing it for anything else. They put, there's all the stores out there. They put their parents' farms and houses on a second lien just to get the money to do it. And it was really a passion project of them. And I think it shows, and that's why it's been now, 42 years later, and people are still obsessed with it. That we still want Evil Dead content, whether it be video games, comics, spin-off TV shows, anything like that. It still holds true today. It's one
So,
of those classics to me.
one of the things I heard going into it is that it's like really funny too, like it's like a horror comedy. But I didn't get too much of the comedy, which I'm glad though, because I don't like a lot of horror comedy. But
Hmm.
did you get
The
much of that?
No, the first one is pure horror. Evil Dead 2, however, is more slapstick.
Yeah,
I will say that. Have you seen Evil Dead 2?
I haven't seen that one yet.
I mean, that is where you get his character Ash Williams to what everyone knows and love, with the smart Alec talking chainsaw for a hand guy.
Okay.
Because if you watch in the first one, you think that his Scotty would be the hero because he is dispatching of the Deadites, while Ash William has been now crushed and pinned under two bookcases in the same movie.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I feel like Scotty's underrated though.
Hmm.
He really did good in that movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce the guy's real name though.
Well, he went under the moniker Hal D. Rich because he was
Rich.
part
Okay.
of some Screen Actors Guild, and he couldn't be in that movie due to contracts, so they had to use a fake name.
Oh, that's interesting. That's why I got corrected. Okay. I knew it was Richard something, and then I saw that Hal in the quotations, but I
Hmm.
didn't know how to pronounce the last name. But I like his arrogance in that movie. That
Yes.
he did a good character.
Oh yeah. Like I said, they were all. I think they all did a great job, and like I said, and they still tour, and they have the Ladies of the Evil Dead, which is the three girls that still tour
Oh, that's
together at
cool. I
cons and
didn't know
stuff like
that.
that. So,
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have for that one. So, if you were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, probably
I
a
mean,
10.
oh, absolutely. But I'm very biased. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you got a reason to. So,
mhm,
I think I would give it a 9
a 9.
just because I hated the ending so much. That drove me insane. Like, all the effects were so good up to then, and then they just kind of let it fan out for a little bit. So,
Oh
kinda
yeah.
that part kinda killed it, but I love the rest of it.
Hmm.
I like that it kept me on the edge of my seat because there was just so much gore. I was not expecting it, and it looked so real.
Oh yeah. I highly suggest seeing Evil Dead 2 because Stephen King helped make that movie happen.
Oh, I love Stephen King.
Because Stephen King gave rave reviews of Evil Dead 1. His name was plastered all over the marketing. And he goes, "Hey, studios, you really should look at these guys again and pay attention to them because they're doing great stuff."
Yeah, it's just amazing what you can do with so little.
Hmm.
I think that movie shows it a lot.
Yeah, and you will see if you watch Evil Dead 2, because I hope you do, that.
I'm probably gonna watch it tonight.
So did you see the poster that was in the basement that was torn up?
Yeah.
It was "Hills Have Eyes," right?
Yeah. Did they make a reference to it too?
Yeah, so it's Wes Craven, and you've seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street, correct?
Yep.
They watch in that movie Evil Dead on TV.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and so in Evil Dead 2, at one scene there's a Freddy Krueger claw in Evil Dead just to show that their movie is better than Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's awesome. That's the other thing I noticed is like the first few minutes of watching a movie when they go into the basement,
Hmm.
it literally tells you everything that's gonna happen and how to solve it.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was kind of cool, kind of like foreshadowing.
Hmm.
That was neat. I like that part.
Yeah, and I
I
think
just I loved
if
it.
if you've seen Cabin in the Woods, right?
I've seen part of it.
Part of it. I mean, that is a good parody of Evil Dead
Yeah,
because everything that they do with the cabin's almost identical. The creatures are almost identical. So
that's what I heard too.
oh yeah. So I have way too much knowledge about this movie.
That's not a bad thing. I'm glad you came on to discuss it with
Thank
me.
you. Yeah.
But I think that's all I got for it.
Okay.
I'll get this edited and send it to you. I'm gonna include some of our favorite clips in there. So do you have a favorite scene you want me to include with some of this?
Like I said, probably the last scene of the
That
evil
last.
coming back out from the ground and then kind of going and busting through all the doors.
It's so funny that you love the ending
Hmm.
and I love the middle. I
See,
just
I love bad endings.
okay.
I like when it's seemingly evil wins.
Yeah, yeah, that is cool. I like that about the thing.
Hmm.
That was kind of neat. I do like you were mentioning when the claws bust out. It's just that one little section where they're like, where the he's trying to pull that book out of the fire. It was just,
And it licks itself. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it was just too, I guess, cheesy for me.
Yeah.
I'm,
I mean,
I'm gonna
it
stop
is.
before I offend you.
Oh, trust me, I have this argument with my co-host all the time because we did the Evil Dead trilogy in the movies when Evil Dead Rise came out earlier this year,
Okay.
and so yeah, I don't have any hurt feelings. So
Okay. Well,
awesome,
thank you again.
thank you.